The Christian ambassador's juvenile just breached 3 security checkpoints, carrying a plasma wrench that could vaporize the entire diplomatic wing, and the maintenance human is helping it. Commander Zilax's translator implant had to be malfunctioning. It had to be. Repeat that, he said, his third hand already reaching for the emergency. According to YouTube analytics, 98% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel, that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Lockdown controls, sir. Maintenance tech Emma Johnson is currently in Sector 7 with the Christian Cub. Security Chief Vexia's voice crackled through his calm tension, bleeding through every syllable. The juvenile is carrying a class for plasma wrench. The human is she's teaching it proper lifting technique. The council chamber fell silent. Ambassador Korvax, all 7 feet of apex predator dignity, went completely still, his breathing apparatus clicking rapidly in what Zilax had learned to recognize as barely controlled panic. My offspring, Korvax said quietly, escaped containment 17 minutes ago. Ambassador Vexia confirmed it bypassed 3 security doors, accessed the maintenance bay, and acquired a plasma wrench from the restricted equipment locker. Standard protocols prohibit physical intervention with Christian juveniles without explicit parental consent, and by the time we located the cub, the human was already what Zilax demanded, pulling up the security feed on his tablet. The image that appeared made his primary heart skip simultaneously. There, in perfect high-definition clarity, was Emma Johnson, 5 1/2 ft of thoroughly unremarkable human maintenance worker in a greased jumpsuit, crouched beside a Christian juvenile. The cub, barely 3 ft tall but already sporting the characteristic ridged spines and retractable claws of its species, was indeed clutching a plasma wrench nearly as long as its entire body. The tool's containment field glowed an ominous blue, indicating it was fully charged and active, and Emma was smiling. Oh, that's a big wrench for you, isn't it? Her voice came through the audio feed, cheerful and conversational. Here, let me show you something. You're going to hurt your back lifting it like that. Spirits of the void, breathed Liana the Centurion, xenobiologist, leaning forward in her seat. Is she touching it? She was. Emma's hands were gently adjusting the cub's grip on the wrench, showing it how to balance the weight properly. The cub made a sound, a sort of chirping trill, and adjusted its grip accordingly. The council chamber erupted. Impossible. Liana was on her feet. Christian juveniles don't respond to non-parental instruction. They can't. It's not in their neurological development. That wrench could level this entire section. The Valorian trade representative interrupted, her gill slits flaring wide. One wrong move, one startled reaction. My offspring has never responded to anyone outside our family unit, Korvax said, and Zilax had never heard the normally composed ambassador sound so lost. When juveniles enter their exploratory phase, they are confined to reinforced chambers until the phase passes. They cannot be reasoned with, they cannot be taught, they certainly cannot be on the screen. Emma laughed, actually laughed, as the cub attempted to lift the wrench overhead. Whoa, easy there, buddy. That's not how we do heavy lifting. Watch me first. Okay, see, bend your knees, keep your back straight. The cub watched, then impossibly It imitated her stance. Get me, though. Galactic Council, Zilek said, his voice barely above a whisper. Code paradigm. Shift, sir, Vexia asked. Do it now. He couldn't look away from the screen, where Emma Johnson was now guiding the Crithian cub through what appeared to be a basic maintenance task, the deadly plasma wrench now serving as an ordinary tool in their impromptu lesson. And someone find me every piece of data we have on human child rearing practices. Every single file you think this is related to that human just did something. 40,000 years of Christian civilization says is neurologically impossible. Zilex interrupted. She made an apex predator juvenile cooperate through nothing but verbal instruction and gentle guidance. Either our understanding of Christian biology is fundamentally flawed, or humans possess some capability we've completely failed to identify. On the screen, Emma high-fived the cub with her palm. The juvenile's claws were fully retracted. Possibly both, Liana whispered, her data pad already filling with notes. Definitely both. Ambassador Korvax remained frozen, watching his offspring, his dangerous, uncontrollable, necessarily isolated offspring play acted, being a maintenance worker alongside a human who treated the situation with all the gravity of helping a neighbor's kid with homework. That's my child, he said faintly. That's my child is learning. The plasma wrench powered down as Emma showed the cub the proper shutdown sequence. The juvenile watched every movement with rapt attention. Its tail, which should have been lashing aggressively, curled contentedly against the deck plating. All right, little helper, Emma's voice came through, warm and encouraging. Let's get this baby back where it belongs. Yeah, your folks are probably worried about you. The cub chirped again and followed her toward the equipment locker. Security, Zilek said carefully. Do not, I repeat, do not intervene. Continue monitoring. And for the love of all that's void, make sure we're recording every second of this. Already done, sir. Good. He looked at the assembled council members, seeing his own shock reflected in every face. Because I'm not sure anyone's going to believe this without video evidence. Ambassador Korvax's breathing apparatus clicked rapidly. I'm watching it happen, he said softly, and I don't believe it. On the screen, Emma Johnson walked side by side with a Christian juvenile, chatting away about proper tool maintenance like it was the most natural thing in the universe. The plasma wrench swung gently between them, safely powered down and properly balanced, carried by two sets of hands. One human, one Christian, working together. 40,000 years of established xenobiology quietly collapsed in a maintenance bay on a Tuesday afternoon. We clear's throat, need to extract the human immediately, Vexia said, her voice tight with professional control that was rapidly fraying. If the juvenile's predatory instincts activate, they won't, Liana interrupted, her eyes locked on her data pad as streams of data poured across the screen. Look at the biometric readings. The cub's cortisol levels are dropping. Its aggressive response markers are at baseline. It's not in a prahunt state. It's in a, oh void take me, it's in a learning state. Zilex watched Emma guide the cub back toward the equipment locker. The human's body language relaxed and open. Clear's throat, no fear, no defensive posturing. She was talking animatedly about something. Audio feed picked up words like torque settings and safety protocols, and the Juvenile was listening. That's not possible, Ambassador Korvac said, but his conviction was wavering. Christian, juveniles in exploratory phase don't have the neurological structures to process instructional language from non-family members. It's not defiance or choice. Their brains literally cannot parse the information. Then what? Zilax asked quietly. Are we watching on screen? Emma stopped at the equipment locker. She held out her hand, palm up. Okay, buddy, let's put this back nice and safe. Can you hand it to me? The cub looked at the wrench, looked at Emma's hand, then with careful deliberation placed the plasma wrench into her palm. The council chamber went dead silent. It understood a request, Lariana whispered. A complex multi-step request requiring theory of mind, impulse control, and voluntary object transfer. That's more advanced than we see in adult crits during their first year in multi-SEs environments. Emma secured the wrench in the locker, then turned back to the cub with a grin. Good job, you're a really responsible helper, you know that. The cub's tail swished, not in agitation but in something that looked disturbingly like pleasure. I'm calling the Xenoxiological Institute, Liana announced, already pulling up her comm. They need to see this in real time. I'm calling my clutchmate, Korvac said faintly. She needs to know that everything we believe about raising our offspring might be catastrophically wrong. Zilax barely heard them. He was watching Emma crouch down again, bringing herself to the cub's eye level, a posture that should have triggered aggressive dominance responses. Instead, the juvenile leaned closer. So what brings you all the way down to the maintenance bay? Emma asked conversationally. Just exploring. The cub made a series of clicks and chirps, juvenile Christian vocalizations that most species couldn't begin to translate. They were considered prelinguistic, instinctive, meaningless. Emma tilted her head, considering. Yeah, you wanted to see how the big tools work. That's pretty cool. I like learning about how stuff works too. She's responding to non-linguistic communication, Vexia said, disbelief coloring every word as if she understands intent rather than just vocabulary. Humans are social pack species, Zilax muttered, pieces clicking into place. His mind, high investment offspring, rearing, extended juvenile development, periods requiring constant adult interaction and teaching. So are Christians. Korvac pointed out, we invest enormous resources in our offspring. In containment, Liana countered, not looking up from her frantic note-taking. In protection, in isolation until neurological maturity, you invest in keeping them alive until they can integrate. Humans invest in what would you call it active development. On screen, Emma was showing the cub her tool belt, explaining what each implement was for. The juvenile touched each one gently, carefully. Its claws fully retracted the entire time. My offspring has never retracted its claws for more than a few seconds outside of sleep cycles, Korvac said. His breathing apparatus had gone from panicked clicking to something slower, more wondering. The muscle control required is significant. The conscious choice, the trust, Vexia added quietly. Emma laughed at something, a smudge of grease on the cub's snout perhaps, and reached out to wipe it off with her thumb. The gesture was so casual, so instinctive that Zilax almost missed the significance. She had just touched a crit juvenile's face, and the cub leaned into the contact. Okay, Liana said, her voice cracking slightly. Okay. That's no species tolerates facial contact from strangers during juvenile development. It's one of the few universal constants in xenobiology. Faces are vulnerable. Juveniles protect them instinctively. This is impossible. 3 council members said in unison. Yeah, I'm getting real tired of that. Word, Zilak muttered. He opened a new channel. Vexia, what's the humans' personnel file say about her background? A pause. Emma Johnson, age 32. Maintenance technician, 3rd class. Human homeworld, Colony Region, North America. Previous employment includes what? She worked in childhood education before joining station services, elementary level, ages 5 through 11 standard Earth years. Zilax felt something click in his understanding. She's a teacher. She was a teacher, Vexia corrected. No, Korvac said softly, watching his offspring follow Emma toward the maintenance bay. Exit. The cub's entire posture relaxed. And content, she's still a teacher. She just changed the age range on screen. Emma paused at the bay doors. All right. Little helper, I bet your parents are worried sick. Should we go find them? The cub chirped affirmatively. Cool. But, hey, if you ever want to learn more about how the station works, you can come visit me during my shift, okay? I'll show you all the cool stuff. Emma grinned. With proper supervision from your folks, of course. The juvenile tails swished in clear excitement. She just invited a Christian juvenile to return, Liana said, her voice distant with shock. She wants it to come back. And it wants to, Korvax added, watching his offspring's body language with an expression of dawning wonder. My child wants to return to a non-family member for social learning interaction. Emma pressed the door control and the bay door slid open to reveal security Chief Vexia standing in the corridor, her weapon conspicuously holstered but her posture radiating tension. Oh, clears throat. Hey, Emma said brightly. Perfect timing. I found this little guy wandering around the maintenance bay. Pretty sure they belong to someone important. Vexia's expression was carefully neutral. The ambassador is waiting in Council Chamber 7. Awesome. Lead the way. And Emma Johnson, maintenance technician, 3rd class, walked calmly down the corridor with a Christian juvenile trotting happily at her side, completely unaware that she just shattered 40,000 years of established xenobiological science. Get me everything, Zilak said to no one in particular. Every human study on child development, every paper on their educational systems, every scrap of data on how they raise their offspring. If humans can do this, if they can connect with juveniles across species lines through nothing but patience and genuine engagement, we need to understand how. And if we can't replicate it, Liana asked. Zilex watched Emma chat with Vexia while the cub investigated a wall panel with careful curiosity. Then we start hiring humans as universal childhood development specialists. Because whatever that woman just did, we need more of it. Ambassador Korvax's breathing apparatus clicked steadily as he watched his offspring approach through the security feed. I need to speak with her, he said quietly. I need to understand how she knew what to do when 40,000 years of my species collective knowledge said it couldn't be done on screen. Emma high-fived the cub one more time before the trio disappeared around a corner toward the council chambers. The plasma wrench sat safely secured in its locker, and the station's diplomatic crisis had somehow transformed into something else. Entirely. Something that looked impossibly like hope. The council chamber doors opened and Emma walked in holding the cub's hand, actually holding hand in an claw like it was the most natural thing in the universe. Ambassador Korvax made a sound that the translator couldn't process, something between a gasp and a prayer. "Hey there," Emma said, cheerfully, completely oblivious to the room full of dignitaries staring at her like she just juggled black holes. "So, I found your kid in the maintenance bay. They're super curious. Really wanted to learn about the tools and stuff," the cub chirped and waved at Korvax with its free hand. "My offspring," Korvax said carefully, "has never voluntarily touched a non-family member in its entire life." Emma glanced down at their joined hands. "Oh, sorry. Should I not?" "No," four council members shouted simultaneously. Emma froze. The cub's grip tightened slightly on her hand. "Please, Lyanna," said her voice shaking. "Please don't change anything you're doing. We're trying to understand how you're doing it." "At all doing what?" Emma looked genuinely confused. "I just talked to them. They wanted to help with my work, so I showed them how. Kids like feeling useful, you know." "Kids," Zilax repeated slowly. "You're treating my station's worst security breach in 15 cycles like a child wandering away from their parent at a market." "I mean," Emma shrugged. "Isn't that basically what happened?" Little dude got curious and went exploring, found the shiny tools, wanted to check them out. She grinned at the cub. "Right, buddy," enthusiastic chirping. "You're aware," Vexia said carefully, "that Korean juveniles are classified as class of biological hazards during exploratory phase, that touching one without parental consent carries a recommended sentence of wait." "What?" Emma's eyes widened. "This little guy hazard," she laughed. "Come on. They're just a kid, a really strong kid with some wicked claws, sure, but they've been super gentle this whole time because you asked them to be," Korvax said quietly, staring at his offspring with an expression approaching reverence. "They've been gentle because you requested it and they chose to comply." "Well, yeah, that's how it works. With kids, you treat them with respect, explain things clearly, and give them chances to make good choices." Emma tilted her head. "How do you guys normally handle this phase?" "Reinforced containment until neurological maturity," Lana said, her fingers flying across her data pad. "Approximately 8 standard months of isolation with minimal family contact to prevent triggering aggressive bonding responses." Emma's face did something complicated. "You lock them up for 8 months for their safety and ours," Korvax explained. "They cannot be reasoned with, cannot control their predatory instincts, cannot." "Okay, but..." Like Emma gestured at the cub, who was now examining Lyanna's data pad with clear interest. "They're literally doing all those things right now. Have you tried just talking to them?" The silence that followed was profound. 40,000 years, Korvax finally said. 40,000 years of civilization, and clears throat. "No one thought to simply talk to them." "To be fair," Zilax offered weakly, "the first few thousand attempts probably ended badly because you approached them as threats instead of children." Emma said, her tone gentler. "Now look, I'm not trying to criticize your whole culture or whatever, but on Earth we figured out a long time ago that kids respond to how you treat them. You expect them to be dangerous, you get Dangerous, you expect them to be curious. Learners, she squeezed the cub's hand. Gently, you get curious learners. Cub made a soft content sound and leaned against Emma's leg. Impossible. Someone whispered, but it sounded more like wonder than denial now. She's rewriting xenopsychology in real time. Liana muttered, and she thinks she's just being nice to a kid. Emma caught the comment and smiled. I mean, I am just being nice to a kid. They're sweet. Want to learn, want to help, want to be part of what's going on around them. That's just normal kid stuff, Ambassador. Korvax approached slowly, each step deliberate. The cub noticed and cheered excitedly, reaching toward their parent while keeping hold of Emma's hand. My child, Korvax said, his voice thick with emotion, is happy and learning and safe with a stranger. He looked at Emma. We've been doing this wrong for my species' entire recorded history. Emma's expression softened. Hey, you were keeping them safe the best way you knew how. That's not wrong, that's caring. You just maybe didn't know there were other options, Zilex said, watching the impossible tableau before him that humans apparently consider basic common sense. Well, Emma said with a slight laugh, we do have a lot of practice. Human kids are pretty helpless for a really long time. We kind of had to get good at the whole teaching and patience thing, or we'd never have made it as a species. The cub tugged on Emma's hand and pointed at Korvax's ceremonial sash with questioning chirps. Oh, you want to know about your parents' fancy outfit? That's a great question. Emma looked at Korvax. Is it okay if I bring them closer? Korvax nodded, not trusting his voice. Emma guided the cub forward, and for the first time in Christian history, a juvenile exploratory phase approached their parent without aggression, without fear, with nothing but curiosity and trust. And everyone in the room understood they were witnessing the beginning of a revolution. Korvax actually knelt, bringing himself to his offspring's level. The cub released Emma's hand and approached, touching the ceremonial sash with gentle, curious fingers. This represents our family line, Korvax said, softly, his voice catching. 12 generations of ambassadors. The cub traced the symbols, chirping questions. Yes, Korvax answered, tears forming in his eyes, a biological response most species in the room had never witnessed. From a crit, you'll wear one someday. When you're ready, Emma watched with a soft smile, staying close but giving them space. That's really special. No wonder they're interested. I've never had a conversation with my child before, Korvax admitted, his breathing apparatus clicking rapidly. Not like this. I didn't think I could until they reached maturity. I thought I was protecting them by keeping them isolated. I thought I was being a good parent. You were being the best parent you knew how to be, Emma said firmly. And now you know another way. That's not failure, that's growth. Liana was openly weeping as she typed. The implications are staggering. If Christian juveniles can learn and bond during exploratory phase, their cognitive development could advance years ahead of current timelines. Their social structures could fundamentally transform. The entire species could learn to enjoy their children. Korvax interrupted quietly, now stroking his offspring's head crest with shaking hands. The cub leaned into the touch, making sounds of contentment instead of merely enduring their youth. How many other species are doing the same thing? Zilex wondered aloud. How many civilizations are containing instead of teaching, isolating instead of engaging. 17 species use isolation protocols for juvenile development, Vexia reported. Pulling up data, 32 use minimal contact approaches, 14 classify their own juveniles as categorical hazards. Send this footage to all of them, Zelax. Ordered with full xenopsychological analysis, include human specialist Emma Johnson's methodology in the report. Whoa, wait, Emma held up her hands. Human specialist, I'm a maintenance tech. I just helped a lost kid, you. Revolutionized interspecies childhood development in less than an hour, Lana countered, looking up from her data pad. With red-rimmed eyes, you demonstrated capabilities we didn't know humans possessed. It's not a special human thing, Emma protested. Any decent person would help a kid who needed guidance. That's just basic empathy, basic empathy, Zilax repeated slowly. That crosses species lines without hesitation. That sees a classified biological hazard and thinks child who needs help. That's not common in the galaxy, Emma Johnson. That's extraordinary. The cub had climbed partially into Korvax's lap now, showing him something clutched in its small claws, a fastener from Emma's tool belt. They took a souvenir, Emma said with a laugh. Little klepto, that's pretty normal kid behavior too. Honestly, they wanted something to remember you by, Korvax said, examining the small piece of metal like it was a precious artifact, a token of the person who first treated them like they mattered. Emma's expression crumbled a bit at that. Of course you matter, little buddy. Every kid matters, the cub chirped and reached toward Emma again. She moved closer and the juvenile grabbed her hand, then pulled her toward Korvax. Oh, Leona breathed. Oh, it's trying to create a group bond. They want us both, Korvax said wonderingly, opening his other arm to welcome Emma into the embrace. They want their parent and their teacher together. Emma hesitated only a moment before accepting the awkward three-way hug, laughing as the cub chirped happily between them. Okay, this is pretty adorable. Not going to lie, I need to contact my clutch mate, Korvax said, his voice muffled. She needs to meet you. Our other offspring need to meet you. Can you? Would you be willing to teach us, teach our entire family how to do what you did today? I mean, sure, but honestly, I just listened and stayed calm and treated them with respect. That's not really teachable. That's just caring about kids. It's teachable if no one in your entire civilization knows how. Zilex said quietly, Ambassador, I'm formally requesting human specialist Johnson be assigned to a cross-species childhood development advisory role. I second that request, Lana added. Immediately, I still have maintenance duties, Emma protested, even as the cub climbed onto her shoulders to investigate her ponytail. You still have maintenance duties, Zilax agreed with a slight smile. You also now have the most important job on the station, teaching the rest of us how to love our children properly. Korvax made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. 40,000 years. And a human maintenance worker shows us what we've been missing in a single afternoon. Hey, Emma said gently, helping the cub down from her shoulders before they pulled her hair too hard. Better late than never, right? And think how many kids are going to have better lives now because of what happened today. The cub settled between Emma and Korvax, one hand holding each of theirs, looking thoroughly pleased with their arrangement. Indeed, Korvax said, softly squeezing his child's claws. Gently, thank you, Emma Johnson, you gave me my child back. I didn't even know they were missing. Emma smiled, tears in her own eyes now. You're welcome, both of you. And in that moment, in a council chamber designed for diplomatic negotiations and trade agreements, a new paradigm was born. Not through legislation or scientific breakthrough, but through one human, simple belief that every child deserves patience, kindness, and the chance to learn. 3 hours later, Emma was back in the maintenance bay, updating the duty roster on her data pad. The cub, now officially named Tish, she'd learned, had returned to their family quarters. With Korvax, 17 species representatives had requested human childhood development consultations. The Galactic Council had declared an emergency xenopsychology summit, and Emma had a cooling duct that still needed fixing. Hey Johnson, her supervisor called over the comm. Council wants you for another briefing in an hour. Can I finish the Sector 7 repairs first? Emma asked, grabbing her tool belt. That coolant leak isn't going to fix itself. A pause. You just revolutionized galactic civilization. Yeah, and the station still needs maintenance. Emma shouldered her bag with a grin. Besides, I promised Tish I'd teach them about ventilation systems next week. Can't have them learning on broken equipment. Her supervisor's laugh crackled through. Fair enough. 1 hour. Johnson, copy that. Emma headed toward Sector 7, humming slightly behind her. In council chambers across the station, ambassadors were rewriting 40,000 of policy. Ahead of her, a coolant leak waited patiently. Just another Tuesday. On the station, some revolutions, Emma figured, could wait until after the maintenance